Is Caitlin Clark sending a message to Stephanie White, Amber Cox, Kelly Krauskopf, and the Indiana Fever? A message could be being delivered. Many people are speculating with this bold move.
Listen to this, because a massive new controversy is putting Caitlin Clark, the Indiana Fever, and the entire WNBA under the spotlight. Rumors are now swirling that Clark could be ready to move on from Indiana, while reports claim the New York Liberty may be preparing a huge offer for the superstar. If true, this wouldn't just be another off-season rumor, it could completely shake up the league. The biggest question is what's actually happening behind the scenes between Clark and the Fever, and whether growing frustration could eventually force a major decision. But hold up, because the Liberty angle makes this story even more interesting. A move like this would instantly change the balance of power in the WNBA and potentially create one of the biggest stories women's basketball has ever seen. So is Caitlin Clark really considering leaving Indiana, or is this another rumor getting blown completely out of proportion? Let's break down what's being claimed, what we actually know, and what could happen next.
Oh, SpaghettiOs, Caitlin Clark introducing the Statue of Liberty edition, the New York Liberty edition. I already know you damn near besties with Sabrina. We think you cool with Lexi. No, you go way back with Sabrina. Caitlin Clark could be sending a message to the Indiana Fever. Hey, I might not sign that epic. Y'all pushing everybody else for MVP. Stephanie White is having tantrums every time I shoot the ball. She's falling over herself on the sidelines. I don't have to deal with this. I can go elsewhere. And I think Caitlin Clark should seriously consider going elsewhere.
But to understand why Caitlin Clark could seriously consider leaving Indiana for the New York Liberty, you have to look at what has allegedly been happening behind the scenes. For months, fans have watched the situation unfold and questioned why Clark appeared to receive so little protection from her own coaching staff. While Clark was taking the hits on the floor, her coach remained on the sideline, and critics felt the team wasn't doing enough to challenge the league or make it clear that Clark needed greater protection. And that's where this entire situation becomes especially serious. What may have started as an attempt to manage Clark's availability allegedly turned into a major source of distrust between the superstar and the organization. Reports now claim that Clark's side has grown tired of what it views as inconsistent explanations and a lack of respect from the Fever facility. If those reports are accurate, the issue isn't just about playing time anymore. It's about whether Clark still feels supported by the organization that is supposed to be building around her. That is why the possibility of a move to New York has become such a compelling storyline. The question isn't simply whether Clark wants a different roster or a new basketball environment. It's whether the relationship between her and the Indiana Fever has deteriorated to the point where repairing it may no longer be possible. And if that trust is truly gone, the biggest decision facing Clark may have very little to do with basketball itself.
Has to do better, and we have to invest in those areas. The technology can get better. We can treat the referees a little bit better, pay them like they're full-time employees. I think things like that, and I think a lot has obviously come after that. And as I've stood up here and said before, like the harassment, the hate, none of that is okay. That goes for the opposing team we play. That goes for my teammates. That goes for my coaches. There should never be a question of character. Like I've always stood up here and said that, and that's truly what I believe. That's how I was raised. So, none of that is okay, and I don't want anybody to ever experience that. I think it can be really frustrating to me at times, and I think it's difficult. I think a lot of people sometimes think I'm a robot. I'm not a robot. I have emotions, I have feelings, and it can be really difficult to go through a lot of that. And, I'm 24 years old trying to navigate a lot, and I think at times I've been in this world for 4 years now, and you would never change any of it, but there are times that it is hard, and there are times that it probably affects me a little bit more than I do put on, and I would never change any of that for the world, but I think it's important that people do remember that part of it too. So
a franchise cannot expect a generational talent to remain committed if she is repeatedly made to feel like a problem instead of the centerpiece. Rather than strengthening the relationship with Clark, the decisions surrounding her have, according to these claims, created an opening for another team to step in. And that is exactly where the New York Liberty enter the picture, with Chris DeMarco potentially seeing an opportunity in the chaos surrounding Indiana. From New York's perspective, the situation could represent a rare chance to pursue a superstar who may be increasingly unhappy with her current environment. The Liberty would have every reason to explore the possibility, especially if they believe Indiana has mishandled one of the league's most valuable players. According to people cited in these reports, New York is preparing an aggressive proposal involving a major trade package and financial structure that could dramatically reshape the market if it ever becomes real. Then came comments attributed to Chris DeMarco that reportedly caught the attention of the basketball world. The message being interpreted from those remarks is that New York believes it can offer Clark something Indiana allegedly has not: a stronger basketball infrastructure, greater protection, and the massive exposure that comes with playing in New York. That combination would make the Liberty a fascinating destination if Clark ever became available. Because the Liberty wouldn't simply be chasing another star, they would be positioning themselves around one of the most influential players in women's basketball and potentially changing the balance of power across the WNBA. And if Indiana's reported handling of Clark continues to create uncertainty, that weakness could become New York's biggest advantage.
ESP Ben, because he broke down the fact that Caitlin is still being targeted and she's still not getting any calls from the referees, like at all. It's really, really bad what's going on. And it's almost like Kathy's not, she's dropped the ball. We know she's dropped the ball. She's getting nothing done when it comes to this. Take a look at this here. Let me refresh this so we can get it going. Okay.
To her throat for the third straight game. She was out of rhythm because they hit her and fouled her this entire game. I got proof of everything. Watch this dirty crap. Caitlin Clark was getting hit, held. Shoot, she was getting tackled like a football player.
Yo, that's crazy.
The reported fallout has now reached the league level, with claims that the WNBA commissioner is deeply concerned about the scale of the situation developing behind the scenes. A scenario in which a superstar allegedly wants out because of distrust within her own organization would be a serious problem for the league, especially when that player is one of the biggest names in women's basketball. According to the reports, league officials are demanding answers from the Indiana Fever front office and questioning how the organization could allow its relationship with Clark to deteriorate this badly. Suddenly, decisions that might once have been viewed as routine coaching choices are being examined as part of a much larger organizational problem. The coaching situation is also becoming a major question mark. If the reported conflict continues, the staff could face serious consequences, while the damage to the locker room and the Fever's public image could become increasingly difficult to repair. What was supposed to be an organization built around a generational talent could instead become a cautionary example of what happens when trust between a star and her team begins to disappear. And that may be the biggest issue of all. If Indiana truly believed it could control Clark through restrictive decisions and public messaging, the strategy may have created the exact opposite result. Instead of securing the franchise's future, the controversy has raised questions about whether the organization has put that future at risk.
But the New York Liberty could be in Caitlin Clark's future as she is promoting the New York Liberty Statue of Liberty ones, CC1s.
The stakes could hardly be higher for Indiana, and if the reports surrounding Caitlin Clark are accurate, the organization may not have much time left to repair the relationship. A potential move to the New York Liberty has been presented as a major possibility, but nothing becomes inevitable unless the teams and Clark actually reach an agreement. For the Fever, this is no longer just about one coaching decision or one difficult stretch. The entire relationship with their franchise centerpiece is being questioned, with critics pointing to alleged ego clashes, questionable communication, and leadership problems as reasons the situation has reached this point. Now, the biggest question falls on Indiana's front office. How far is it willing to go to keep Clark? Would management consider making sweeping changes to the coaching staff in an attempt to rebuild trust? Or will the organization stay with its current approach and risk making the situation even harder to fix? Because whatever happens next could define the Fever's future. If Indiana can repair the relationship, the franchise still has the opportunity to move forward with its superstar at the center. But if that trust has already been lost, The Liberty rumors could become much more than a storyline. They could become the beginning of a completely different chapter for Clark.
You know, the Indiana Fever, they're not honest about any injuries ever. So, you know, we can't necessarily look for transparency through them at all. It'd be a complete waste of time to look for transparency through the Indiana Fever's organization when it comes down.
But here's the question that could define this entire saga. Has Indiana already waited too long to stop the New York Liberty from becoming the biggest beneficiary of this chaos? Whatever happens with Caitlin Clark, the amount of attention surrounding the Fever and Liberty has pushed this story far beyond a normal basketball debate. Every new report, rumor, reaction, and social media discussion seems to create another layer, and fans around the world are watching closely to see where this ultimately leads. For Indiana supporters, Liberty fans, Clark supporters, and basketball fans in general, this has become impossible to ignore. The conversation is happening everywhere, on social media, sports programs, podcasts, and fan communities, and that level of interest says something important about where the WNBA currently stands. Its biggest stars are generating unprecedented attention, and when a player as recognizable as Clark becomes the center of a major storyline, the entire league feels the impact. What makes the debate even more interesting is that there is no universal answer to what Indiana should do next. Some believe the smartest move is stability, patience, and giving an organization time to develop. Others argue that when a franchise has a superstar capable of changing its entire trajectory, standing still can be the biggest mistake of all. Sometimes, they believe, dramatic changes are necessary before a team can build something sustainable. There's also a reason people become so emotionally invested in stories like this. Basketball isn't only about the final score. It's about leadership, competition, sacrifice, confidence, chemistry, and the pursuit of something bigger. Fans develop connections with players because they see the work behind the performances, and they identify with teams because those teams represent something to them. So when the future of a major player or franchise appears uncertain, people naturally want to know what happens next. And now the conversation turns to you. If you were building a championship contender today, what would matter most? Would you prioritize the culture inside the organization, elite coaching, or the presence of a superstar capable of changing everything? There isn't one obvious answer, and that's exactly why these debates are so much fun. Drop your opinion in the comments and explain where you stand. We genuinely want to know whether you think Indiana should prioritize stability or make major changes around Clark. The strongest sports conversations often come from fans who see the same situation completely differently, so your perspective could add something another viewer hasn't considered. If you're enjoying the basketball coverage, support the channel by hitting the like button. It helps the video reach more fans who want to follow the biggest stories and debates across the sport. And if you're new here, subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next update. You can also share this video with other basketball fans who've been following the Clark, Fever, and Liberty situation. The more people involved in the discussion, the more interesting the debate becomes. That's what makes sports communities special. Fans can disagree passionately while still being connected by the same love for the game. Because whatever happens with this particular storyline, women's basketball is clearly entering an increasingly important period. New stars will rise, rivalries will develop, organizations will make bold decisions, and unexpected storylines will continue to shape the league. The future is still wide open, and this chapter is nowhere near finished. So stay informed, keep questioning the reports, and keep following the developments as they unfold. Thanks for watching all the way through, and thank you for every like, comment, share, and subscription that helps keep this channel moving. Keep supporting the players, keep enjoying the game, and we'll be back with more basketball stories and debates very soon.